It's a good one today because, once again, we are joined by one of our favorites from Defector. It's David Roth back in the house.
What's up? How are you?
David, I'm so glad we've got you on the show for particularly this episode because you're one of my favorite observers of our current president, Donald J. Trump. You're one of my favorite Trumpologists. And folks, Donald, he's been on fuego this week. And you know, he is more senile than he was a couple of years ago. I think the seams are starting to show a little bit with Donald, but he can still throw some gas. He's still got some high heat. And I'd like to sort of characterize several of Trump's comments, public comments from this week. And I'm going to quote/paraphrase our good friend Jake from Pendejo Time, who says, "I like Trump's current mood of I'm fat as fuck and will not see heaven. Been there, brother."
Yeah, the thing that if in 2018 you told me that between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, the one of them whose senility would more resemble the movie Big Fish would be Donald Trump, I would never believe you, right? Because you would figure Donald Trump would be the Betty Draper's dad type.
Right.
But that's Joe. No, it turned out he was such an asshole that he was furious about the fact that he was losing his mind. Where Trump, it's it's like taking a bath it's like how they describe slitting your wrist in The Godfather Part 2.
yeah.
It's the one thing that I would have thought, it just lets me sort of dream on how close we might actually be to it happening at this point. The idea, I would have thought the last thing that Trump would manage to achieve as a person was whimsicality. And he's more or less there at this point. Still, it's funny because it's he'll say incredibly awful, racist, stupid shit. But then at the very end of it, he's like, but when you die, the worms eat you, and it's not so bad. Maybe you gotta eat too. I wouldn't have thought that he would be able to get to that level, but he's kind of just hanging out in that little pocket now much of the time that you see him. Whenever he's on Air Force One, he is 100% thinking about dying the entire time.
David, the first comments I want to talk about of Trump's thoughts on death and the afterlife did occur on Air Force One when he was asked by Peter Doocy of Fox News his thoughts on the recent Gaza peace or ceasefire. And Doocy asked him, "Do you think this helps you get into heaven?" And Trump's reply off the cuff was, "I don't think there's anything that's going to get me into heaven. I think I'm not heaven bound." And I love the second sentence there. "I think I'm not heaven bound."
Yeah.
Because it's usually the phrase is hell bound. So he's sort of leaving. He's just, I'm not saying I'm going to hell. I'm just saying I'm not heaven bound.
Yeah.
And what I love about this is what is it what does it mean to have the president of the United States opine openly that when he dies, he is not getting into heaven because of all the things he's did in his life that render him unable to enter the kingdom of God?
Not in a way that reflects any insight or regret either. He's just sort of well, you got to think about it. It's 5 decades of sex crimes, right? So I don't have time to sort of run back the odometer on that and get myself where I need to be.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen this, but from the more earnest, the Hillsdale grads, the people who work for the White Picket Fence Project and the Neighbor Foundation, all the new NatCon think tanks, they have been incredibly distressed by it, and it's very funny because we were talking about the Melanie Mac guys who were like, "I had a dream I was in heaven and you weren't there, and it's awful. There's still time to save you, Melanie." That's what these guys sound like.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is now just Melanie Mac. He kind of always has been, and they both sort of made their name cosplaying as Laura Croft. But it is I saw all these Christian think tank guys with fiance gums being like, "I hope that there's a godly man close to him. Maybe God is doing this to draw out the frauds on his prayer team." And it's like, yep. That is what is happening. Like, if hell is real and Donald Trump doesn't go to it, it's like, well, then no one's going to hell.
Right.
Like, no one's down there.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, we talked about this on Monday, but like, I mean, in a way it's liberating because I've long believed that not a single U.S. president is in heaven, if such a thing exists. But like Donald Trump definitely not getting into heaven. But we've also compiled, like, this is not the first of his musings, sort of his existential musings about death and the afterlife. There's a couple other ones I want to bring up. From August of this year, it says here, President Trump dialed into Fox and Friends Tuesday morning and revealed his newest and truest motivation for brokering an end to the war in Ukraine. He's worried he might not get into heaven after he dies. I want to try and get into heaven, if possible, he explained. I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole. But if I can get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons. And then he goes on to say, there's a certain point at which you don't want to hear happy birthday, he said when he turned 78. You just want to pretend the day doesn't exist. He also then said, my father lived a long time. My mother lived a long time, and they were happy, and they were great. So maybe we're going to live a long time. I hope so. But other times he confessed he was not sure his father made it past the pearly gates. I know my mother's in heaven, he said at Madison Square Garden rally in October. I'm not 100% sure about my father, but it's close.
That's at the Madison Square Garden rally? Yeah. So this is like Tony Hinchcliffe warms everybody up by getting up there with just some incredible material. He's like, you guys ever seen Dominicans? Disgusting. and then Trump gets up there and is just sort of like, my dad is probably in the lake of fire. My mom, she was much nicer than that. He knows his crowd so well. The fact that all of this is happening to Fox News people is also incredible. Like the idea of experiencing whatever the Donald Trump version is of an existential crisis and then expressing your distress into the like stuffed animal eyes of Steve Ducey's son. Or like just hopping on a Zoom call and you're in like the Fox and Friends studios, just like like a picture of him from like 2017 and him just sort of over it, maundering through his dreams is it's not like, it's actually like, I was going to say it's an undignified way to go out, but it's like, it is 100% the way that he would have drawn it up. Like the idea of just like, he wants at the end, like when the moment comes, he wants like Lou Dobbs to hold his hand and like, tell him everything's going to be okay.
I like it so much too, because it's like, for the people he's subjecting to this, they're not like, this is the most that like, I mean, I don't know. He probably calls himself like a Presbyterian, right? Because his mom was like a Scottish Presbyterian. But this is the most that like someone in the, generalized like Republican Protestant sphere has thought about like hell.
Guys that themselves. Like go to church in a mall. Like this is as dark as it gets for them.
Yeah,
it is, but it's also it's probably the most self-aware. Because like, here's the thing. Donald Trump is not a Protestant and he's not a Christian. Like he is transparently one of the least pious men who's ever existed. And there is no way he actually believes in God. But I like that he's open to the possibility that if God exists and heaven and hell are real, I'm definitely going to hell. Yeah. He's like Jerry Lee Lewis in that. I mean, like, Dave, it's like, you're right. Like, you could only rape so many teenagers, allegedly. allegedly, and still expect to be embraced by St. Peter.
Do you think that, like, when during the abortive Ukraine talks, like, Putin was like, here, let me show you something, and, like, showed him the stuff from their oldest vault?
Yeah. And then he was like, no way, I'm going to heaven.
He was like, oh my God, I'm definitely not getting in then.
Sure, okay.
They are not letting me in.
I was hoping that St. Peter wouldn't have access to this video footage, but yeah.
I didn't let any of them into my buildings I own, so they're not letting me into heaven.
The version of Christianity that he has like sort of access to here, not just, I mean, it is like the bit that Felix was talking about, the idea of there being like actual earnest, like people that graduated from Hillsdale that believe that Donald Trump is like a Bible believing Christian who more or less wants to do right. Like that's incredible to me. But the versions of it that he usually has around him when he like has meetings with faith leaders is like, like these incredible mega church hogs. It's like just like a bunch of guys that look like Roger Clemens like praying over him, and he's sitting there with his eyes closed. It's one of my favorite of the like.
I love those images.
The genre
of
like,
yeah, it's 30 Roger Clemenses and their wife who also looks like Roger Clemens or Randy Johnson laying hands on him, and he's just sitting there with a shit-eating grin. Like, can you believe these?
Yeah, he's like incredible. Let me know when this is over. It is really like an attempt to take like some of the John McNaughton paintings and then just like stage them in real life, which I think is incredible as a goal.
I love those. I like my favorite one is the one with it was from the first Trump administration, and Diamond and Silk were there. And this one was good because there were a lot of my favorite type of religious leaders. A pastor who's wearing a leather blazer.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different. I mean, they're all as I think Will is correct that they're all just like one way or another. They have a very 1998 Yankees energy about them, but there's different ways you can go. You can play with your look within those boundaries. The other one of Trump with faith leaders image that I want to shout out. I think people have sort of forgotten about this one, but it's really stayed with me. Is when he went straight from the golf course to a church to get prayed over by, whatever, Andy Pettit. And it was it was a brief like bit of conversation where they were like, is this a new haircut for him? Because he just had his hat on.
Yes.
And so his hair was like pushed back and he's up there and he's making the face, the like, can you believe that this guy is praying over me face? But he still has his fucking golf shoes on. They're like the sort of like saddle shoe footjoy ass, like classico golf shoe style. Just on the like in front of this, like a congregation that's more or less the size of like a mid-major basketball arena, watching him stand there in the clothes that he just golfed 18 in while somebody spoke in tongues to him.
And he had that insane, like, slicked back hair. It looked like, like when Lisa went out with Nelson Muntz and made him dress up like a nerd.
Nelson Muntz at his Sunday best is a great look for Trump.
I have one more here from Trump's musings on the afterlife, and this is from about a year ago when Lex Friedman interviewed him. He was asked, "How often do you think about death? Are you afraid of it?" It says here, Trump didn't answer directly, but he spoke about the advantages of believing in an afterlife. If you're religious, you have, I think, a better feeling toward it, he said. You're supposed to go to heaven, ideally not hell. You're supposed to go to heaven if you're good. And
theologians are more or less in agreement on that one.
And I like this because I think this is the closest to like his like an authentic expression of disbelief from him, because he's like, you're supposed to go to heaven if you believe in it. But then he says, without belief, Trump couldn't imagine why anyone would behave morally. If you have heaven, if you don't have heaven, you almost say, what's the reason? Why do I have to be good? And like that to me sums up what he actually believes in, which is just more or less like a kind of nihilistic atheism, which there is no moral center to the universe or moral accounting for your actions after you die. So why not just do whatever you want to do? And I love that he can't conceive of a moral universe in which the fact that there is no afterlife, in fact, even more strongly compels you to act in a moral, decent way on this life.
Yeah, he's just sort of, I think it's basically like he sort of had somebody do the numbers on like, can you fit camel through eye of needle? And then like when you realize that the answer to that is no, like it becomes a more complicated equation. But I think that like understanding, it's weird to hear him. I mean, that's as close to insight as I think he actually gets. I mean, I think your point, Will, is correct about like, there's reasons to be good and reasons not to be good. And he has never been very inclined towards the reasons to be righteous or whatever. But the idea of like, what could it all mean? Like, what could be more important than having more of everything and having a little bit of everybody else's everything right now? That like, is Trumpism in a nutshell. It's like where the broader culture is at this moment. Like the fact that he sort of understands it and then is sort of like, I can see how this would be unappealing to people who like believe that you should follow certain commandments so as not to be tormented by a demon forever. But like, I'm different.
Yeah. So those are his comments on the afterlife, firmly down in the category of, if there is a heaven, I'm not going to it, and there is nothing I can do in my remaining hours on this planet that will change that. And, certainly true, but like an odd thing for a president of the United States to say. That's usually not the confidence that you want. You don't want to project that attitude, even if you believe it, if you're the leader of an entire country and indeed the world. But let's talk about his body image, because he's been making comments about how fat he is lately as well. And like what I love about this is like, among, like, Felix, as you were saying, among his like sincere religious defenders who are very disturbed and upset by the thought that he like flatly doesn't believe in God, and if there is a God, he firmly thinks he's going to hell. The way he talks about his body is also in direct contradiction of all of his biggest supporters, who seem to think he's like a varsity level athlete at the age of 80. Like, he's like, Trump's one of the strongest presidents we've ever had. Who actually, I bet he can do 100 push-ups right now. This is like, and I love that this is in the context of the impending bailout of Argentina. It says here, asked during an October 14th White House event with Argentine President Javier Milei if he planned to visit the country, Trump said he'd love to, but noted he'd been busy. He also took a crack at his predecessor's periodic beach.
He sounds thrilled.
We'll see if I can fit it in. I mean, you have to remember that my doctor does prescribe that I play 36 holes of golf every 48 hours.
Well, Milei is like, it always reminds me of the picture of Brie Larson with the guy who saw Captain Marvel 300 times.
Yeah. So yeah, he says, I'd like to be like Biden. I'd like to go to the beach. My legs are not quite as thin as his. My legs are slightly heavier. My arms are slightly larger. My body is a little bit larger than his. I'm not sure I would be appreciated on the beach, but I'm not going to take a chance. You won't see me in a bathing suit.
Is fucking Roxanne Gay writing for him? Like, what the fuck?
This is also good because the idea of like this, again, I don't know what his understanding of the world is. And I feel like if you spent like 30 seconds inside of Donald Trump's brain and understood the world the way he does, it would be like the fucking hell dimension from Event Horizon. Like you don't come back from that. But the idea of him as being like Argentina, the beach, right? That's where you go. That's the beach place. Like, it's not even like he's confusing it with Brazil. He's confusing it with like Fort Lauderdale. Like, it's just all sort of conflated in his mind to be like, well, that's south of where I am right now. That's beach country.
Like anything in Spanish is like, the country is 80% beach. Spain, beach. Chile, beach. That is an interesting. I've never thought about that, like the world through his eyes. But like, you know that great gag in Dirty Rock they did, where they show what the world looks like through Kenneth's eyes, and everyone is just a Muppet.
Puppet, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like through Donald Trump's eyes, every event, every conversation, like no matter what, it's formatted like the Ace Rothstein show.
Yep.
It's like no matter what, like his wife being like, you abused me, I hate you. The kid, but he's like on the couch and like Ace Rothstein is talking to him. His lawyer's like, yeah, we're gonna have to pay a few people off, but like try not to do any more like horrible sex crimes against children for another like 5 years. He's imagining Ed McMahon next to him.
Yeah, I think that it's like, the bit that I always sort of thought was the case is that like he envisioned himself like simultaneously hosting Entertainment Tonight, but it's like a version of Entertainment Tonight where all the stories are about him. And so he's kind of like wishing himself a happy birthday. And then he's like, we've got another exclusive. Like, like I actually had a hole-in-one in golf today. And also like I won the sit-up contest between all the other rich guys. But it is but it is like everything's about him. But he's also like simultaneously, it's like definitely an antique TV format of some kind.
The thing that like not toddlers, but like when they're right past toddler, that like 5-year-olds do, where they're like, okay, we're going to play Star Wars and I'm Darth Vader, but I'm also Luke Skywalker. Yep. Like I think he's like the oldest guy who does not technically have a mental impairment, who like thinks like that.
Now, his comments about his beach body also echo something that he said on the campaign trail from last year when he was basically making fun of Biden for being at the beach all the time. And then he like we're just gonna edit this clip into the show. It's too long to it's too long for me to like summarize. But basically, he compares Joe Biden's body at 81 unfavorably to Cary Grant's body theoretically at the same age.
Theoretically, so it's sort of like, imagine how it would be like what if
he was like, Cary Grant is a pretty handsome guy. Would he look like that at 81? I don't think so. And then also in the clip, he talks about his friendship with Michael Jackson, where Michael Jackson told him that Cary Grant was the most beautiful man who's ever lived. Which, fair enough, but like he goes in shitting on Joe Biden for taking beach trips to Rehoboth Beach in Delaware. He's just like, he goes off on a digression where he goes, we used to have, he's no Cary Grant. He just goes, we used to have movie stars like Cary Grant and Clark Gable. And what happened to them? Now we have. And he goes, well, I won't say any names because I don't need any more new enemy. It's like he would have made an enemy of Timothy Chalamet by being like, he's no Clark Gable,
Miles
folks.
Teller?
Yeah.
Imagine what Miles Teller would look like at 81. I don't want to. Okay, what were we talking about? Immigrants, right?
Yeah. And like,
I feel like he hates Ansel Elgort. Like that is the type of guy
join the club.
He just does not like.
It's undignified.
And I guess like, once again, it's just the absurdity of all this is his comments about being fat as shit and going to hell when he dies. This is in the background of like, I don't know, him officially announcing that the CIA is going to do a secret coup to overthrow Maduro in Venezuela. We're probably going to invade Venezuela. And his comments about being a fat piece of shit no one wants to see in a fucking bathing suit happened where like next to Javier Milei, when I can't tell you how fucking galling it is to know that like, last week we're bailing out that country for $20 billion. This week apparently is $40 billion. But like that this fucking bullheaded Muppet is just fleecing the treasury of this company right after he appeared on stage with Elon Musk and a chainsaw to just like celebrate destroying Social Security and Medicare. Like
it's also, I read this, that the amount of money, which I guess like you said is now like $40 billion, is like significantly more than the entire annual budget of USAID. Like it is like basically all of the money that would have been going to support those efforts around the globe is now going to like bail out an adult libertarian who flew an airplane into a mountain as the leader of this country. Like it would be galling even if Milei were not like that kind of like toxic Muppet personality type that a lot of that sort of like outer Trump orbit is, but it's an incredible waste. But the idea of, like you were saying, like him confronting mortality awkwardly for the first time in his life, happening at the moment that he's being like sort of assigned the plenary right to do whatever he wants as king of the country. And like I guess it does sort of fit. It'll just be like when you read a history of it 50 years later, you'll be like, oh, that's a little on the nose. When you're experiencing it every single day, I have to say that I don't care for it. I personally don't. I'm not having fun with it at all.
Well, I think I see what you're getting at. I think things are basically going to be like pretty good after about a year of this. One more year.
You think he's got to get his guys in and install his system and like get the personnel up and running? Yeah.
I
feel the same way about Bill Belichick at UNC.
Aaron Glenn,
yeah. I feel like Bill Belichick needs to hire some more relatives. And he needs to drill down and stop recruiting and then see what happens.
It's kind of like, it is kind of like Argentina. You have to get rid of the bad jobs to get in the good ones.
Well, continuing with Trump's thoughts on death and mortality, he did address a Rose Garden memorial for Charlie Kirk this week, where he made this comment, quote, "They fired sniper rifles at ICE agents and me, but I made a turn at a good time. Charlie couldn't believe it, actually.
I bet he couldn't.
I love, like, I said this before, but like, flexing about the one time you very nearly got shot at the memorial service for a guy who did get shot and was killed by a rifle is amazing.
Yeah, it is literally like I'm different moment. Like he just basically got up there and was sort of like, we hate to see a young man cut down in his prime, but we do love to see when it doesn't happen as well. And I feel like that's also important, and we should talk about how good that is.
And like he had Erica Kirk on stage. He had his widow with him, who was like, talking about how Charlie forgave his enemies, and like this is supposed to be a memorial service, and he opened up the memorial service in the newly revamped Rose Garden by saying this. This is the first time we've been at the new and improved Rose Garden, and people are loving it. They're loving it like they have not loved a lot of things.
So true. It's also worth taking a moment to describe what the Rose Garden looks like, because it looks like
a patio at it's just sort of like an outdoor eating patio at like one of those sort of like when they shut down Times Square to car traffic and put out tables. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like I have a friend who got married it's a nice wedding, but got married in Irvine, California, in the event space of an Italian restaurant, like the outdoor patio space, and that is what it looks like, more or less. It is just some flagstones and bright sunshine. He hates trees, I guess, and also anything that like conveys shade. So that's just like it was like, I guess, he was doing some new things here. He hasn't done a lot of like speaking at memorials in general in the past. Like he kind of has avoided associating himself with people that die because those are losers to him. But this had a lot of the classic sort of Trump aesthetics where he's like squinting directly into the sun and a bunch of really important people are like sweating and looking at him while he ad-libs. That is like a definitive like late Trump experience to me.
In addition to the newly revamped Rose Garden, I did love, I don't know if you guys saw this, but they've installed what they're calling a presidential walk of fame in the Oval Office, which is just a portrait of everyone who's president. But for Biden's portrait, they put a portrait of the auto pen, which I think is hilarious. But like, I love the concept of a presidential walk of fame. It's just like, was like Warren G. Harding not famous enough to be on it?
That's also a perfect like look into him being like the majesty of the office. But for him, like the most important
Hollywood
Boulevard, like George C. Scott's handprint outside of a movie theater. Like we're gonna do that for William McKinley. It's overdue.
And then finally, the other good Trump comment from this week. This was his comments, speaking of the crackdown and the enforcement of law and order in American cities. He says, "I want to thank Stephen Miller. I would love to have him come up and explain his true feelings. Maybe not his truest feelings. That might be going a little too far."
Yeah. I guess this is like the ad lib of the moment for him now, is being like saying something and then being like, I shouldn't say it. And then like kind of saying it, which is actually, again, kind of as you were saying, it's sort of a touching homage to late Joe Biden work as well.
He misses him.
Yeah.
He misses him so much.
Yes. I mean, before we got on, Spencer and I were talking about like, particularly like Trump and how he sees Biden and their relationship. Like if they had been born in a different era, I think like it would be like Trump would love to be like a confirmed bachelor who lives with Biden as his quote unquote roommate. And like goes to Broadway shows with him and goes to the beach and plays golf together, and they're just like two older gentlemen who are like never apart, who live together and who are also on celebrity squares.
In another life. And I could see Biden being the kind of like basically open-minded old guy who still like isn't aware that his best friend of 50 years is obviously gay.
He's my theater buddy. I call him my theater buddy. And, we have good times there.
Yeah, he can't pick one gal. Likes him too much.
Well, just using that Trump's comments on Stephen Miller's real thoughts, which is just like, once again, he's like, if you knew his real thoughts, you'd probably be horrified. But we have fun, don't we?
Yep.
He wants to put everyone he doesn't like in the gas chamber.